Pod Candy!
A podcast about cults, crimes, and killers. Today we're diving into one of the most unsettling and enduring mysteries of the last few decades, the disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley.
Amy was a 23-year-old from Virginia who vanished while on a Caribbean cruise with her family in 1998. One moment she was sitting on the balcony outside her cabin, and then she was gone.
What makes Amy's case especially chilling is the number of alleged sightings in the years after she disappeared. People claim to have seen her in tourist areas, in bars, and even in situations suggesting human trafficking.
It's a story that raises so many questions about safety, accountability, and what can happen in places that are supposed to feel carefree.
And we're going to walk through what happened, what's been reported, and why this case still grips people to this day.
This is the story of Amy Bradley.
Outside my window, it's only raining. When the wind blows, I feel pain. I don't need no doctor, baby, I'm not sick. My body's been locked up, heartbroken ever since.
I don't remember hearing about this before the documentary came out. I don't remember hearing anything about this, and it happened in 98. Really strange situation, confusing with so much stuff. We watched Amy Bradley is Missing on Netflix as our source material. And I thought it was well done. It was 3 episodes. I thought it was well done, but there was a lot of, I think in order to create a story or to create conflict, there was a lot of information about people about alleged sightings. And, I have a little bit of a theory, but Dori, I would like to know how you felt about this whole case, how you feel about the case.
So I didn't hear about it either until I watched it also. And I mean, to be honest, I feel awful. I feel like a lot of compassion for her family that is holding on hope that this woman is still alive. It makes me very sad, and it's also very sensationalistic. It has all the good. I personally loved this documentary. I loved watching it because it really kept my interest because there's so many twists and turns to it. But I think watching it and, seeing her with her brother and going to the disco and meeting the guitarist Yellow, and then disappearing later that night into the early evening, whether she committed suicide, whether she was kidnapped. There's so many questions still to this day.
And we're both kind of just finishing our drinks and hanging out and talking about the next day. And she brought up that someone she had been dancing and was talking to during the course of the evening made some sort of physical pass at her. She told me it was the bass player from the band. She didn't make a big deal of it, just kind of mentioned in passing. At that point, we were both tipsy. Told her I loved her and see her tomorrow, and shut the glass door behind me. And we went to bed.
I remember waking somewhere around 5:30 in the morning. Brett had come in and gone to bed. but I didn't see Amy in there. So I made sure that Amy was okay, and I saw her legs and her feet sitting in a lounge chair on the balcony. So I said, well, she's safe. And about 10 to 6 o'clock, somewhere in there, something woke me up again. I looked out again and she wasn't there. I noticed that the balcony door was open, about 12 to 14 inches. I noticed that her cigarettes weren't out there. And the shirt that she had on that night was laying on the chair in the room. It was a yellow polo shirt. So the first thing that I'm thinking is she's changed her clothes and went up. She's left the room and she's up, getting a cup of coffee, taking pictures because we were coming into port. And that's when I left the room. I figured that by leaving myself and letting them sleep that I would find Amy, you know, in just a few minutes. And then everything would be good. But when I didn't, that's when I came back and told Alva, you know, I can't find Amy.
I do want to hear your theory because, Stacey, honestly, in my mind, I went from, oh no, she definitely jumped. No, she definitely was murdered. No, she's definitely still alive. So I want to hear what you think happened to her.
So you just one thing you said, she disappeared in the evening into the early morning.
Well, she disappeared in the morning. She was at the disco at night, but she was drinking, as her father said, quote unquote, only 7 beers. Like if I had 7 beers, I would be legs open to the world at that point.
Yeah, me too.
And probably passed out, though, to be honest.
I have to be honest with you. I had my share of beers in high school. There were nights where I had a bunch of beers. And there were times after I had a bunch of beers that I would have nights that were a little bit crazy, but not that kind of a situation. Now, here's some background on Amy. Now, I know she's gay, and she seemed, to be, her family seemed okay. Everybody seemed to be accepting of her. I don't know if she accepted herself or if something was wrong in terms of her feeling bad, having maybe having depression. I'm not really sure, but she was excited about the cruise. She had this wonderful woman in her life who I feel so bad for, who she wrote the message in the bottle to, which is very ironic. And when I heard about the message in the bottle, I had to start thinking that maybe this was a suicide. I don't think she fell, but I guess it's possible. Now, they were so close to shore, I hear, that why wasn't her body found? And was the cruise ship, did they not really act appropriately or enough in their case? I mean, I understand the panic. Actually felt the mother's panic when she was talking about when they were disembarking from the cruise, and that could be when she was losing her. I mean, because everybody was contained in the ship. You know what I mean?
Can we both agree that the cruise director was a total asshole in the interview?
Oh my God. I mean, first of all, you know what? It's just like, what's his name in Ohio State? It's like, just be honest, just admit things. Like, let's just
be
say,
honest, and just also like be kind of more human as you are interviewed later in life. I think he was so nonchalant about it, that bothered me.
2,000 people were getting ready to get off the ship in Curacao. I had bouffant hair at the time, so I was probably spritzing in my hair, getting ready to make my appearance on the gangway. And I heard an announcement that, would Amy Bradley please contact the purser's desk?
You could see people gathering their things up. We're just saying you can't let people off of this boat until we find her.
The hotel director kind of debriefed me, oh, this girl's missing. But at the time, I still had to make the clearance announcement.
I was begging them, can you back the ship off of the dock? Don't put the gangways down. Stop everything.
We're not gonna stop everybody's cruise because there was a missing girl. That's one family's unfortunate incident, but we still had 2,400 people who paid a lot of money. And as cold as that sounds, that's the reality.
But getting back to the suicide of it all, I don't know if I got that impression. I felt with the new dog, the new job, it's
the woman,
and this is something too that we can talk to the doctor about. But it sounded like, yeah, she had the girlfriend. It sounded like her life was very positive. She was excited about going on this trip.
When we went to the cabin to take a look, search it and all that, then we see shoes and a small table pushed up against the balcony and so forth. We have to look at the potentiality of suicide.
We did, many interviews with, numerous friends and family, and also, outside that immediate bubble, just to have a better understanding of Amy's state of mind.
The notion of suicide, I thought that. But I also thought, man, but Amy loved to be, she would not want to not be here.
I do not believe that Amy committed suicide. There's no room for me to believe that. And by the time they went on the trip, she was excited about life. She had just gotten a new job.
She had gotten this new bulldog, got an adorable apartment that we were all so excited about because Amy was gonna have this space that we could all hang out. The second day, they called home from the cruise and they were having a blast. And she sounded so upbeat, and she and Brad had gone shopping, saying, I'll see you when I get back home. Can't wait to tell you all about my trip. I got you this gift. I mean, to me, that's not somebody who is wanting to commit suicide.
Who knows what happened truly? I know when the guy said, like, a shark would have found a leg or something, like a leg would have washed up. Like nothing. It is
there's
odd.
no trace of her.
There's no trace.
No trace.
But then they show those photos of her years later that could have been, like, they look like pornographic photos of her. Is she being sex trafficked? Is she under the spell of, is she so drugged and now like kind of like in a cult, like where she is like, what do you call it? Not hypnotized, but
like indoctrinated or manipulated.
Manipulated, or where she was so scared, and when they
brainwashed.
were maybe brainwashed, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you. Where she really truly thought maybe these people would kill her family if she said anything. But now it's been years later.
It's 2025. That was 98. It was like, back when I did the national tour of Showboat. That's just my marker for 1998.
I wish we did videos.
Oh my gosh, how ironic.
A clip of that. I wish we could show a clip while you just said Showboat, and then we show Stacey dancing it up in Showboat.
Charleston. I do know that. I still know the Charleston from the end of Act 2 completely. But I don't think I would probably break my back. But ironically, Showboat, Caribbean cruise ship. No, I'm kidding.
I look at all of these sightings, and people say, well, why hasn't she called you? That's probably the biggest question that we get. If she's out there, why doesn't she call you? Well, there's a lot of reasons. Maybe she's a victim of Stockholm Syndrome, where the captive person starts to identify with their captors. Maybe he's in a situation where she's had children. Maybe they threatened her. Maybe they threatened her children. We don't know any of these answers. It just gives me hope that she's still out there somewhere.
Originally, I thought human trafficking. It's the only explanation that because they didn't have a suspect. They talked to the yellow, his daughter was, I don't know, that whole thing with his daughter felt really forced, where she called him. It just didn't feel.
What about the suitcase of all of the photos of the Caucasian women that the daughter found?
Yeah, and that was another
yellows,
thing.
Yellows.
Yeah, maybe he was fucking around. Maybe he was
messing about fucking, or do you think like he is a part? I'm so like
I'm part of it
all over or was he the one that lured her? Like he was the conduit, and he would lure. I mean, it's obvious to me that she was maybe interested in drugs or something. Like, you drink that much, maybe she wants to party more. Does that sound realistic, or does that not sound realistic?
It sounds realistic. Something was put in her drink potentially, which would make sense if there was a 30-minute period. Something had to happen very quickly and no one saw it. So the only thing I can think of is her being hidden or her being pushed, and then like that's it. Or I guess now that I'm hearing you, I at first thought it had to be, there's no suspect, there's no real like solid evidence or person that feels. Even when I heard Yellow talking to his daughter, I believed him. He just sounded honest to me.
And then my mom saw that he came home with a bag. My mom looked in the bag, and it was pictures of women, just all Caucasian women. And I think that's what raised a red flag for me. I want this to end. I want, answers. Hi, Daddy.
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go through this again. I didn't do anything wrong, so tell me, how am I supposed to? I have no problem you calling me to ask me questions.
I would wish that you put yourself in my shoe and understand how I feel about this.
They brought the FBI on immediately. And then he said to me that they're trying to find this girl that I was seen dancing with her. Everybody that had anything to do with cleaning your room, serving her drink, everything were grounded. When they realized nothing was involved, we continued to walk. And I continued to walk on the cruise ship until 2 years later.
Why am I hearing that you were seen on the beach with her, like months later?
Beach? Which beach you saw me on? Because I don't like beaches. We danced at the club. Like I danced with many people at the club.
So
I did nothing.
You don't know if she ever got off the boat?
How would I know that? I left her in the club at 1 o'clock. And I went to my room. How would I know she got off the boat? I'm a little boy from Grenada who've never had any experience like this before. I'm sitting there. My name is called. I'm being questioned about something I don't know.
Mommy found a bag of pictures of Caucasian women that you came home with, It raised a lot of questions.
Which one of the picture was her?
I don't know.
I had many pictures.
Yeah, why? It's hard to hold this conversation with you because you get upset.
We take pictures of everybody. As a band, when people come and want to take pictures with you.
I agree with you. She did not seem depressed. She seemed like things were going her way. I didn't sense from her that she was upset about her sexual identity or any of that stuff. It didn't feel that way. But I thought maybe she jumped, and why? So that's one thing, but the human trafficking to me, or sex trafficking, is the only other thing that I can imagine.
So what do you think about then the people that did say that they have seen her over the years and they're adamant, like, I don't know, the woman who saw her in the bathroom, all of them kept saying she said her name was Amy and that she had a Southern accent. That is crazy to me and that is something that the FBI has looked into. Again, nothing has been conclusive. They haven't found her. There hasn't been, even that this, the documentary ran, I don't think anything has happened since the documentary that they have found her, the body, nothing, that she's still alive or the body. It is something to say, too, that the FBI kept saying, we can't do anything when it's international waters or where it is other countries. They have no jurisdiction over that.
Right. The more you talk, the more it's just, to me, if she was trafficked at some point, would she not want to reach out? It's all over the news. There's people looking. I can't imagine in a world where she wouldn't have a girlfriend reach out, touch base with that girlfriend, miss somebody. That poor mother and father and that brother. I feel so bad for him. He can't even have kids. He's too traumatized by that situation. He doesn't even want to have a child of his own,
Yeah.
We've lost a lot of years, of our life. Searching, but we won't stop.
I don't have children, and I'll be 48 in December. Subconsciously, I think I'd have to admit, watching my parents lose a child was so traumatic for me that I'm not willing to put myself in a position to go through that.
They talked a lot about her sexuality. And I think this is something for the doctor as well, but it almost was like a two-parter with her. She definitely was gay, but her life moving forward seems to be if she's alive, could possibly be in sex trafficking, and that would be with men. But they also mentioned something about when the woman saw her in the bathroom, the kids. Does she have children? Does she not? And like you said, she hasn't reached out at all if she is alive. That almost makes me think she's not alive. But if she is alive, I don't know a lot about brainwashing. And is she, after all of these years, because maybe she is so secluded in a world where they don't have a lot of technology at her fingertips, if she's on a remote island still to this day, and they never allowed her to be in front of a computer or by a telephone or anything, it could possibly be she is alive and has just been kept. Now she's an older woman. She's probably closer to our age, right?
Yeah.
Which our age meaning 35.
Yeah, exactly.
If the doctor is 36, then we're definitely 35. But you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm just so confused.
Yeah.
I'm still
so confused. I mean, again, I keep going around. Trafficking, brainwashing, what was up with Amy, and what are John's opinions? Do you think we should let him out of the green room? I see crumbs all over the place. I think he's been eating.
I don't know. I mean, should this be the good time? Because maybe he needs to stay in there for another 20 seconds.
Yeah, we gotta isolate him from his friends and family.
I mean, he does have a lot of opinions, though. I think
he does. All right, let's let him out. What's going on, John?
The cookies are back. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, these are good. These are, I can tell, bakery style cookies as opposed to off the shelf supermarket.
1000%. No man's cookies
great.
Here. These are real, cookies.
I like the Nespresso. Parentheses potential, sponsor. Nespresso machine we got in there now. That's nice. That's good.
The budget is going up. The budget is definitely going up.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
A couple of, remarks initially, like I always do. I have to agree with Amy. This is so very well.
Amy? Who's Amy?
Wait, you talked
Amy
with
Bradley.
Amy?
I've been channeling her.
Oh,
sorry. I got Amy on my mind.
You have to agree with who? Dori?
Stacey. They both
me?
end in a Y. They both end in a Y. I guess.
Yeah, okay. So does Dori, but it's an I.
It's
but
an
anyway,
I.
okay.
It's an I. It's not a Y.
Dori. Right,
Dori,
I know. It's still
Dori with a Y would be kind of cool.
That's the fish. That's not me, Dr. John.
I know. But I agree with Stacey. Well done documentary. I one of the best so far that we've seen. And I'll tell you why. As a writer, the audience doesn't necessarily know that.
Oh, yes, John is a writer.
It has the elements of good story. I mean, there was some red herrings, the crazy guy next door in the other cabin who was kind of wacky. And as I'm watching this documentary, I'm going, this guy's a creep, there's something going on there. And then there was even a theory that maybe she was trying to climb over the balcony to get into his suite. I thought, okay, this is interesting. So well done. And all these red herrings and the way they told the story really, I thought, build interest. Like Dori was saying, it kept my interest. But in terms of the crime and the story, I think it really compels us to have an episode where we're all detectives here. We're all like detectives. What the heck happened here with this young lady? The other thing I want to say in my opening remarks is this is sad. This is really a sad story.
Really sad.
This reminds us of the episode on the catfishing. That woman that was strung along for so many years with that guy. I forget what episode.
Bobby. Sweet Bobby.
Yeah. Sweet Bobby.
Sweet Bob. I love that woman, and I felt so bad for her.
And this brought those same emotions to me. It's like, this is
it's sad. These people's lives have been hijacked by this thing that they can't figure out.
Exactly. And I'm sad for Amy because let me jump in. I think she's still alive.
What?
I think she's still alive.
This is so exciting. Why? Tell us. Tell us.
I think, like Dori was pointing out, the evidence, people have seen her, and these are pretty convincing eyewitness accounts. The fellow walking along the beach who, was face to face with her in, I think it was Barbados or something like that, and describes the guy she was with that could have been this yellow, which for our audience, this is the musician she kind of bonded with, I'm saying that politely, bonded with during the cruise. And so I also agree with Dori that guy's got some connection with possibly the trafficking.
I look down the beach and I see three people walking towards us. There's one guy, there's a girl in the middle, and then there's another person who looked like he was from the island. As they came closer to me, she comes right up to me. She was in good shape. She was tan. She was a smoker. I see a tattoo that looks like a Tasmanian devil. And she's just about to say something to me when the person who was on the inside comes up. I'm looking right at him. He stared at me, doesn't say a word, and motions her away. If he had not stared at me, I would have forgotten everything. But I can't. I think about this every day. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't. And I think if I had 10 seconds more, what would I have done?
So as you both were saying, I think Dori pointed it out in the opening remarks, that this yellow, Alistair Douglas is his real name, his daughter finds a suitcase, and she opens it up, and there's pictures of all these Caucasian women spewing around the suitcase. I mean, is that potential victims that they're trafficking? Is he like a conduit? He's on a cruise ship. He'd be a perfect one in my experience. And I've dealt with these human trafficking cases. I'm going to get to that in a few minutes. Is he the conduit? Is he providing the names and pictures of women that then he sells, he makes money off of, where he's, putting this all together?
How they mentioned that Alistair /Yellow, I'm just going to call him Yellow, that he took a polygraph, and the FBI said that came up inconclusive. Can you talk about that a little with polygraph tests and what that means?
Thank you. I'm chomping at the bit to talk about that. First of all, as probably everyone in the universe knows, they're not admissible in court, polygraphs. Well, why? It's not a perfect science. You can fool a polygraph. It measures, your physiological reactions to the questions. And quite frankly, if you're a cool customer and you answer, calmly and make it seem like you believe your answers, you can fool that. Playing around with my work with the FBI many years ago, I took a polygraph and purposely fooled it. Purposely, passed it by lying. And if you just keep your in a mindset, which you can do almost through like a meditation or a self-hypnosis. A meditation is probably a better example. You can pass a polygraph, So the polygraph wasn't convincing to me. The way he talks, like Stacey said, when he talks, there's this interview with the daughter on the documentary, which I also agree was kind of a little weird.
It just seemed forced.
Yeah, well, it was. They even said as they set it up that, we wanted to put it on camera, her talking to her father. But yeah, it was convincing sounding, but there's something there, like Dori is suggesting.
That was my initial thought. Yeah, I've gone all over the place with this case. I can't get any.
Well, that's true, and again, that's why it was good storytelling, because you're really confused. Because I do want to, Stacey, get back to that suicide thing, because so audience, Amy sends a message in a bottle 2 or 3 days before she goes on this cruise with her family. Message in a bottle. And it's a note to her girlfriend about her feelings towards her. But it did say how she was confused and unhappy with her life. It was the only hint that there was some trouble in town with Amy, that I'm kind of, don't know who I am. I don't know if I'm happy with who I am. And then this I think is awesomely cool to tie in here. She signs it stranded.
I wasn't returning her phone calls, so she resorted to writing letters and a message in a bottle. Molly, I hurt you deeper than you can ever forget. I'm not asking you to forget, because that'll never happen. I just wanted to ask you if you could find it in your heart to forgive me. Molly, will you please forgive me? I have been insensitive, immature, and selfish. I didn't like the person I was, and I'm not proud of how I acted. I feel like there is an ocean between us. Like I'm on a desert island, waiting for you to rescue me. A message in a bottle, my only hope. I miss you, Molly, Save me, please. Stranded, Amy.
Message in a Bottle cruise, Stranded, which both has the psychological aspect of I'm stranded, I'm alone, I don't know, I'm chained, but also does it hint at maybe she was going to run away. Her purpose wasn't suicide, but maybe she was going to try to run away or get away for a while and leave the cruise, leave her family, and have an adventure.
That's interesting. That's something I haven't even thought about. So thank you for bringing that up. What about the fact it did sound, her parents weren't necessarily thrilled that she was gay. Obviously, they mentioned that, but they loved her anyway. But she seemed to have a very close relationship with her brother. If that were the case, that maybe she was thinking, yeah, I want to go find my, do all of that. I guess my against that would be maybe she would tell her brother because she was so close, but also the fact that she did get the dog and she got the new place. Like, these are all these theories like that. Then I go, but she did this and she did that.
Well, good point. But look at how I termed it. She maybe wanted to have an adventure, get away for a while. She had all intention of coming back. There's where the sadness is in. I don't think she meant this as a permanent, I'm leaving the world. She had a lot of things to live for. The girlfriend, she did hint at the message in the bottle that, when I come back, we're going to get together. We're going to have a life together. And the girlfriend, Molly, was looking forward to that. I really thought after this cruise, we were going to be together. We're going to be a committed couple, live together, etc.
I feel bad for her because she seems
yeah.
really empty now. I just, she just hangs on to that memory of that time. She seems like a lovely woman.
Yeah, she certainly does. And so I think Amy had intentions of coming back, but I'm really, I don't want to say convinced, but if I was called to be the forensic psychologist on this case, I'd say, I think she wanted to get away for a while, have an adventure, sow her oats, so to speak, before she started a job. How many people do this? She's starting a job, new adventure with her apartment, new adventure with her dog. And new horizons, I should say. But I want to have this adventure. I want to do something a little different, crazy. And sadly, she got herself into a mess by doing that.
Okay, so again, I'm like totally being like, Detective Dori on the case. So
Dee,
Detective Dori. So are you saying that if she wanted to go maybe like have some adventure, she was, I would think, intoxicated that evening. Are you saying she wanted to go have an adventure, like she thought in her mind before the trip, like, hey, we're going to go on this cruise. I want to kind of see, what happens. Or are you saying that night she decides, oh, I want to, go on an adventure. And here's this, yellow guy who's like, hey, like I can show you around, when her mother said she did not want to get off the cruise?
I think that stranded signature is a super key to the fact that she wanted to do something wild and different. And don't forget, these people have never been on a cruise before. So I think she might have thought the cruise was going to be, the adventure in and of itself. Then she meets this kind of, exotic fellow. This yellow is... sounds like he was, he was from the Caribbean, sorry. Great, voice, this great foreign accent, handsome guy. And she saw it as maybe this is the opportunity to have that adventure I wanted to have. more so even than the cruise. So I don't think the cruise was the end all and be all for her, but meeting this yellow, this Alistair Douglas, and going, oh, this could be exotic. These people were from what? Virginia, Chesterfield, Virginia. It looks like they were very colloquial. They didn't go do much and kind of stayed in the area, close family. I think this was the, explosion for her.
We were sitting on that deck for a while. We weren't ready to go back to the room. It was wee morning hours, sometime between 5 and 6. I saw Amy and this guy that worked on the boat together in this glass elevator that I could see to my right. The glass elevator went up to the nightclub, even though it was closed. It was a very well-lit elevator. I could tell right away who it was. It was the bass player and Amy. Amy looked like she was staring at something. I watched them until they rode completely to the top and they exited the elevator. 10, 15 minutes after I saw them, he was coming from the front of the boat. So to my left, he walked down the top deck. Never says a word, just kind of a brisk walk past us, alone. I thought it was very strange because in the nightclub, he had tried to, get us to talk to him. We're alone on this top deck. He just walks right by us. Doesn't even look at us. I just kind of got a bad vibe. Immediately I thought, well, where's Amy?
I think the cautionary tale for our audience is that she made a dire mistake by following this guy. I think she was sold into human trafficking. I think that's where the story goes. I think she's still alive. I have a couple of interesting side notes in terms of that. If you do the math, she's well into her 50s at this point. And in my experience on the cases in human trafficking that I've dealt with, either these women are used up until they're not, their beauty goes, their attractiveness goes, and they can't be used as escorts and prostitutes, etc. So they're either killed or they're just, discarded. So why is she still in captivity? That's a question I have. And then also, both of you didn't bring up a little tidbit that was very interesting. When she was in that bathroom, she was observed in that bathroom by that woman. She mentioned something about children.
So I went in there, and I wasn't in there maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and all of a sudden I heard people coming in. They were talking, and I thought, men are in this restroom. There was a man over by the door talking. One thing that I always remember when the men said, you better be all set to go and don't try to leave or do anything because we're gonna be outside waiting and watching all night. The woman, she goes, can we stop and see the children? I said, yeah, we could stop and see the children. And then he says, are you gonna cooperate, not try to leave? And she said, yes. And then all of a sudden the men left. And I opened the door and there's this young woman standing by the sinks. She had real long dark hair and it was kind of wild and crazy. Had a skirt on, a straight skirt and a sleeveless top. She had this awful look on her face, kind of crying. I walked over to the sink to wash my hands and I said, hi. Are you on vacation here? And she just shook her head, no. Do you live here? She shook her head, no, wouldn't talk. And then I says, well, what's your name? She said, Amy. I could tell she had a Southern American accent. So I said to her, well, where are you from? She was talking so low, I thought she said West Virginia. I went, oh. I was cheering her up. I'm from near where you're from, and I have a daughter named Amy, and she's just about your age. And when I said that, she starts walking towards me, getting up in my face, and she backs me into a wall. And I just froze. So I'm talking real fast. I'm going, oh, it's so nice meeting you. I hope you have a good time, whatever you're doing. And she watches me. She never moves. It's like she's frozen. Her back is to the door. So I open the door, and here's this man standing in the door, blocking my exit. So I play dumb tourist. I go, excuse me, I'm sorry, I gotta get out, excuse me, like that. And I just kept inching. Her back was to the door the whole time I'm leaving. And I get up to my husband, and he says, gosh, you were in there a long time. And I'm telling him, there's something going on. They're forcing that girl to do something she doesn't want to do. They all came out with their arms through her arms. I stood there and watched them until they disappeared.
Her captors mentioned something about you'll get to see the kids. And she became happy. But I think that, okay, there's no question in my mind. Here's what goes along with my theory of human trafficking. These people do not use birth control. These people do not protect these women, and the women can't have the resources to protect themselves. I think she got probably pregnant a couple of times. And that's another hook keeping her in this whole culture of human trafficking.
What about, though, the fact that she was gay? And if your theory is that she wanted to go, like, check this out with, Yellow.
Alistair.
And Alistair, like, what do you think about the fact, because that would be horrendous. That's just another layer, I guess, if this is your theory, and she's put into this trafficking, that she does not find men sexually attractive, that she was gay.
It doesn't matter to the human traffickers. They force them into the situations that they're in. Think about the conversation in the bathroom that was overheard. And again, for our audience, the words were, you better do this tonight. You better be ready. Don't you run away, and we'll pick you up afterwards. These women are forced to do what they do. I mean, come on. Even a heterosexual woman, why would you want to, be having sex with some, pot-bellied, bald, ugly...
that was my last boyfriend. Just kidding.
No comment.
No, wait, John, how long, do you know how long women stay in the trafficking? I mean, do they stay, could she get away now if she's in her 50s, or like, do they keep people on for 25 years?
Well, typically not. That's my point. There's some other hooks going on here. Did she have a couple of children with maybe one of the main characters that are involved? And so they're domesticating together, and having a little life together. And so she's hooked in that way, meaning that he, the father of these children, is demanding that she stay, even though in terms of a sexual slave, she's no good anymore. They discard these women. Their longevity in this captivity that they have is about as much as a professional athlete. It's
right. That's what I mean. It's like you only get this many years,
or you can't for some reason perform.
You can't dance anymore.
Boom. Yeah, you're done. They discard them, and they often kill them, by the way.
What about the fact that and I'm going through your theory, John, of all of this because it's interesting to me. So she went back to the hotel room, right? And her father sees her at what, like 5:30 in the morning, something like that, and then hears some crazy noise, right? And then she's never seen again. I know that they had the witnesses on the cruise ship that saw her in yellow walking to the elevator. But if that's your theory, like she wanted to go and experience, and maybe she was tipsy or intoxicated, and, he says, like, yeah, I'll take you, I have some friends, let's go party more, whatever. So you think she would go back to the room, have a smoke, sit outside, have a smoke, and then like herself choose to go and see yellow, and then they maybe leave the ship together? Or what are you kind of thinking about that?
Was it docked?
Yeah, it was docked. It was docked, right?
Interesting. Okay.
No,
okay.
it was not docked.
Or was it in the water?
Anchored.
Oh,
Anchored.
It was anchored.
They had
It was
to
anchored.
take tenders to get to shore, which is I want to say and add to what you're saying, Dori, is a very important point. That's one of the questions I had, because the tenders weren't running yet. This is in the middle of the night. The tenders weren't going to run until the morning. My question is, how did they get her off the boat?
That's what I don't understand.
Now, they could have had a little, speedboat come up to the side and take her off or something like that. And here's where the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line could be a little at risk here. I've been on a couple of cruises. I know both of you, I think, have been on cruises. Mm-hmm. I heard that they have, they're watching the sides of the ship for stupid stuff like this happening. Boats coming close to the ship, somebody falling, etc.
Right.
So there's where maybe there would be, I don't want to create a lawsuit here for anybody, but why weren't they watching the sides and what's going on of the whole ship? Again, my recollection is that they are doing that, but maybe that's a 2025 thing, and they didn't do it in 1999 or 1998.
98.
Yeah.
I have not been on a cruise before, but I was a singing waitress on the Spirit of Chicago that did day cruises and evening cruises, like 3-hour cruises. So I would consider myself some sort of an expert on cruises. So if you have any other questions just about cruise protocol on the local Chicago level, please let me know.
You're qualified. You get our blessing. You have been accepted as an expert on cruising.
I should say that I went on a cruise last year. And I know Dr. John has been on a couple cruises in the past couple of years. And I went back in my mind. I thought, how easy would it be to get over that, over it? And you really would have to be standing on something. And you know what I mean? It's not like an easy situation.
You mean to jump over? You mean
to jump over? Like, I don't know, you'd have to really get on something and get over it, get over the thing. And
I was going to interrupt as a doctor and say,
yeah.
The height in which you would jump, even from lower cabin suites, whatever levels of the ship, you would die. You're hitting water at a great speed. It's quite proven that.
And they wouldn't find her body. How did they not find her body?
Let's talk about 3 or 4 seconds on that, because I thought that was very admirable of the local Curacao police and Coast Guard. They're saying, they had graphs in this documentary showed that if in fact she fell or jumped off the ship, they had a rectangular section saying this is where her body would go. And because of the calculations of the waves at that point, which they, keep track of course, she would wash up at this particular point. And that's where, as you both were talking about the sharks, et cetera, and how creepy it was, the guy said, yeah, the shark doesn't eat the whole human body. So, that we'd find some leg or, head or something and some clothes. But it would have washed up in that particular section. They have this calculated out, which was amazing, and nothing was found.
When we didn't find her on the ship, local authorities to Curacao were called immediately.
I was the chief of the Davao Police, and when something like that happens, automatically it comes in my lap. They thought she had fallen overboard. Our waters have a very strong current, so something should wash ashore.
I remember the search. I could see the boats and the helicopters out looking.
It was the biggest search that we ever had. A search grid was between Curacao and Aruba. The Marines, the Venezuelan Coast Guard, the Navy, everybody was looking in that area. Because of the position of the boat, wind force, sea current, was wave height, the body would have washed up. But she was nowhere to find, not even a piece of clothing, nothing.
It was very unusual, very, very unusual. I was born here. I know about the water. We searched. I'm telling you, if she came off the ship or fell off the ship, we would get a body. She would have washed ashore. Our waters have sharks, but the shark will not eat her completely. Something, maybe a leg or an arm, something would have washed ashore.
I think that debugged the whole jumping off the ship or falling off the ship theory, and more the human trafficking theory.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm so easily swayed. Like, I don't have any real opinions, because I'll be like, this is what I think, and then a minute later, I'll be like, I think this.
Well, if you don't have any
on
opinions,
certain
what are you doing
topics.
on this show? What are you doing on this
No,
show?
except on certain topic. This is the hardest mystery, but this is what I'm going to say, which is an addendum to what I was saying before, which was, not sure I'm going to go on another cruise after watching the Poop Cruise.
Poop Cruise.
Another thing about this whole she's still alive theory, I think it's more than theory. Again, if I was called in as the expert on this case, I would say she's still alive, and I got some suggestions of how to find her, by the way.
Oh, yes. This is juicy.
But before, as you were talking, don't forget, they also interviewed this ex-Navy person who went to a bar that he wasn't supposed to go to. It was an off-limits bar in, I don't know if I wrote down where that was. I think, again, in Barbados. And he encountered Amy. She told him her name. I'm Amy Bradley, and I'm being held against my will.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I didn't report it right away because I was in the Navy. I was 2 years from retiring. I would have gotten reprimanded for being in an off-limits bar, a lower rank, which means a lower pension. So I didn't say anything at the time.
So I went in there, and 4 people come down the stairs, 2 guys, 2 girls. And I see the 2 guys got guns. I sat down with the 2 girls, and the guys went over to the bar. There was a white girl and a Hispanic girl. White girl was petite, dark hair, some tattoos on her. And then one of the girls got up, went over to the bar. I should have just turned around right then and left. Because that's when the other girl, she said, hey, they're holding me against my will. I need help. She says I owe them $200 and I can't get my freedom. This was my 18th year in the Navy. I've heard all kinds of stories from working girls. Singapore, Thailand. I've heard it before, And that's when she said, with a Southern accent, my name is Amy Bradley. She pronounced it Brantley. Not too Southern, but Southern accent. And then she told me she got off that ship and she left on her own because she was going to score drugs. She said, me and my brother are partying and I went ashore to go get drugs and now I'm stuck here with these guys.
there's some more convincing evidence that she's alive and she's being held captive. Now, I think her days, she's come and gone to be used as a sex worker, but there's something that she's being forced to stay there. I think it's because she's had kids with one of the kingpins of this whole group.
Yeah, no, I want to hear these theories of like what are all your theory, John? You mentioned that you have these theories.
Yeah, and also
What do you
like
mean?
what you can help. How you can help the
find her?
FBI.
Well,
You
here's,
can help.
here's what
Yeah.
puzzles me. If this family would have called me into the case, I would have said, forget the FBI. The FBI doesn't have any jurisdiction here. I mean, fine, they have some resources, but if you noticed in the whole documentary, and these were wonderful people. I work with these people, not these specific ones in the documentary, but they're good people. And I'm not saying anything against the agents that were in the documentary, but they were really helpless. I mean, they were cuffed at so many things. Why didn't the family get an excellent private detective? And the money that they've outlaid to try to find her, put it into, a top-notch private detective. These people exist. They're not just in movies. And this person would find her. And the other agency that's out there, and again, this is real. This is not just movies or novels. There's an agency called Interpol, which is an international FBI type law enforcement agency which has jurisdiction throughout the whole world. Why weren't they brought in?
What's going on? Is there a cover-up?
Yeah, and why aren't an agency like that doing more against this human trafficking? It's a huge thing. It's a very sickening, huge crime that's happening in the world, and I don't see anything really being done at these levels to help these women that are being kidnapped and forced into this sexual slavery. It's sickening.
Ugh.
It's sickening.
Where do you think she is?
I think she is in again, and I might have my islands wrong, but I think Barbados. By the way, don't forget that those computer guys were tracking the IPs that hit on their website they created, amybradleyismissing.com. We'll give them a link. And they track the IPs, and the biggest hits, especially on holidays, were coming from those triangle islands, Barbados, Curacao, and I think Aruba might be the other one. And their theory is that's Amy checking in on her family.
It is tough because it is all in these different countries and these different islands that you're right, John, like obviously, and maybe they did get a private detective, but it was just never mentioned because
but why wouldn't they mention that in the documentary?
But why wouldn't they after all these years?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, why wouldn't they, do whatever they can?
Well,
anyway,
it's not cheap. It's not cheap.
Right.
Let's put it that way. And
but
even
it's sad that the parents are in their 70s and they keep like holding out hope that I don't think she's ever coming. I mean, I don't think they'll ever find her.
And maybe this is wishful thinking, but I don't know. I just think she might be allowed to see her parents one last time, possibly, by this guy who's holding her captive. Sometimes that happens, but that could be very wishful.
Or she could be dead now too. Like, you don't know. Like, she could possibly, or she could have died it really is. Listen, everybody who's listening right now, this is like a tragic but incredible story. And like John said, I thought a very good documentary just because there's so many twists and turns to it.
Yeah, and there's ways to justify all these different theories.
Before we wrap up, I think, you both are better at this usually on our episodes than I am. But I like to honor some heroes in this story. I'm kind of surprised, especially Stacey usually say, I really think this person is a superhero.
I usually do. Okay,
yeah.
I'm sure I'll agree with you.
I think the brother, like you said,
Brother.
his
Yeah.
brother is a hero here that, very poignant audience. At a certain point in the documentary, he goes, I am so afraid of having kids. To see what my parents went through by losing a child. So he is blocked from having children. His relationship broke up. He had a girlfriend that was part of the whole Amy Brad group, and they broke up afterwards because he was so torn by this. I think the parents are heroes. The parents are incredible heroes for keeping in the search, and I didn't pick up, as a psychologist, I didn't pick up any kind of weirdness about that, about them not moving on, because there's so much evidence that she could still be alive. I think this David Carmichael, the person who saw her on the beach, and turns out he's a computer whiz, and so he paired up with the person who started the Amy Bradley is missing.com, and both of them are heroes because they're keeping up the search for her. And even that Navy guy, I think, for speaking up, and kind of a primitive guy, but he said, I saw her and here's what she said. And the woman that overheard the conversation in the bathroom, and reported it, that these are some of the heroes in the story here.
Alistair's daughter. I mean, she's a hero too, to even speak up and even be in the documentary and kind of go against her father, because she has so many questions as well.
So I just want to say, I just was skimming, the Wikipedia just to make sure that I had some facts here, but this stuck out. Initially, the authorities suspected that Bradley had either fallen overboard or died by suicide. However, investigators said that there is no evidence that Amy, a trained lifeguard, fell overboard, was pushed, or committed suicide. There's no evidence. And the other thing that was weird is Alistair, Yellow, went up to Brad Bradley, her brother, and said something to the effect of, I'm sorry, hey man, I'm sorry to hear about your sister. But no announcement had been made by that time, and Brad said the timing of the conversation was suspicious. So I just thought that was a little weird. He was spending time with her. So I'm kind of back on the Alistair thing, but only just because of a feeling, not because of any fact,
I mean, I can be swayed. I can be swayed anyway. I mean,
that's how I feel.
In a minute, I'll be swayed in another way.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel about this. Yes, John.
I want to circle back to his statements that sounded so convincing, especially when he was talking to his daughter. I had nothing to do. Well, if he was simply, again, goes with my analysis of the data, if he was simply the guy who handed over these women, therefore the pictures, etc., I think a guy like that could convincingly say, I don't have anything to do with her being kidnapped or, being a sexual slave. No, nobody asked him, did you give the information or a picture to, the bad guys to do this? Nobody asked him that. So he doesn't have to answer that. So in his own crazy conscience, I had nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with it. But your buddies did, the people that you sold the information to. I think he sold Amy to the bad guys.
More than 25 years later, Amy Bradley's disappearance is still an open case.
Her family continues to seek answers, and the FBI still lists her as missing.
If you have any information, you can contact the FBI or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Thank you for listening as we explored the disappearance of Amy Bradley. Amy Bradley is Missing on Netflix.
Stay tuned next week where we explore and dive into Unknown Number High School Catfish on Netflix, where you're going to hear about an amazingly crazy case and hear all of our opinions on that. Can't wait.
Our theme music is written and performed by Midnight Current, and you can hear more from them on SoundCloud. Please visit podcandypodcast.com to learn more about us and listen to all of our episodes, or on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much.
Pod Candy!